Hi YouTube, at the car boot sale last year I managed to pick up 5 of these plastic moons. They're really cool shape, they have little lights inside them, but I just really like the idea of painting one up so it looked like a real moon. That was my initial thought when I bought them, but then I thought every so often I get the urge to make a robot. So I thought I'd quite like to make a moon bot. So I've got a couple of dowels here that will become the legs, and because this is plastic, it's just really easy to kind of screw things into. So whenever I start building a robot like this, I nip into my shed and see what parts I can find. So here you can see a couple of light fittings for his feet, and the springs are from a radio control car. Here you can see a few parts that I found to make up the arms. So you can see the first bit just screws straight on to the moon, and then you've got this kind of clip bit that just clips straight onto it. Then there's another light fitting, and then you can see dowel again, which I've just sawn at an angle, and then that gives me that sort of elbow effect. You can see I've just made holes in here and just added this aluminium wire, and then I found these kind of claw-like hands, which are quite cool. I don't know what they were from, just some sort of clips, I think. And you can see overall that's starting to look pretty cool. I managed to find these grey plastic parts which just look a bit like eye stalks, and then I found these plastic eggs which I'll show you in a minute, and I've just taken the blue round bits from the plastic eggs. Also I wanted to make him like a little backpack, and this is just a couple of plastic tubs that I found, and again it's just the ends of these plastic eggs, and that gives me those kind of domed bits to the ends. I'll show you one of these plastic eggs because they really are quite cheap, but it's the sort of thing that if you find a whole load of them you should buy them because they're useful things to have in. You can see here that I just have ignored the pointy end and I've cut off just the rounded ends for the eyes and for the ends of his backpack. Right, I managed to find this green arch which I've just stuck on initially with super glue. That won't make it particularly strong and it could fall off quite easily, but I'll screw it on later as well. Here you can see how I've attached the backpack, screwed on with a couple of Meccano pieces, and then that whole thing is kind of screwed on to the moon. You can see various other bits of plastic here and there that I've added on, like to his feet for example. This is what's nice about making a robot like this, is you can keep adding bits and make it as complicated as you want. Okay, I also decided to make him a little ray gun, which is quite cool. Again, just out of bits of tubes and, you know, flat circular bits all stuck together. It'll look better when it's all painted up, but that gives you an idea. Right, this is what I was talking about, making it more complicated and more interesting. You can see I've added screws at the front here. That makes it stronger, it's less likely to break off, but also it'll look good painted up. I added this clip on the side and these clear plastic tubes which go all the way round the back to his backpack. Obviously he has a matching clear tube on the other side to make him symmetrical. If I turn him around here, you'll see I've also added a long aerial, which is just from a stiff bit of wire, and it's got a little green ball on the end. I might change that to a bigger ball later on, but at the moment I've put that one on. It looks pretty cool. Right, I'll just let him hold his little gun again so you can see what it's looking like so far. I also found this tube from an old radio control car, and it's just sort of like a bit old and rusted, but he looks pretty cool holding that as well. Right, for the first painting stage this looks a little bit drastic because I painted the whole thing black apart from his blue eyes. It has the effect of kind of killing the overall contrast of the whole thing, but it's a really good way to start painting a model because it gets the dark down into all of the little deep kind of crevices and all the cracks and little grooves and that kind of thing, and then you can dry brush everything on top of this. Because I want this guy to look metal, I can dry brush silver over the top, and you can see it really makes it pop straight away. It gives it a really nice shine and the whole thing looks like it's made of metal. I've even added a bit of dry brush silver to the blue of his eyes as well, and that just makes them have this kind of metallic sheen to them. If you're ever dry brushing any metallic colours, it's always a good idea to dry brush them on top of black as well. It just has this sort of slightly magical effect where it really makes the metallic colour really kind of shine out. I would have been really quite happy to leave him as he is here. I really like the effect, it's quite simple, but I just wanted to make a couple of areas stand out more. So I had an idea of something else I could do, but I'll just let you see the whole of him, like the little antennae and stuff. I've added a spring to that, and that looks good. And it's got a larger ball on the end now as well. So yeah, I think overall it's looking great at this stage. You can see obviously I've removed the plastic tube to dry brush all the silver. Then I'll add the plastic tube back on right at the end because I want that to remain looking like a clear tube. Anyway, have a look at him with the black and the silver, and then I'll show you the difference between this and then how he is as a finished product. So here he is finished. You can see I've added some eyes. So these eyes, I think they were from like a Mr. Potato Head or something like that. And I just sawed them down and stuck them on. And they're quite nice because they've got a kind of shine on them. You can see I've dry brushed gold paint over the top of his mouth. That makes that show up a bit more, otherwise it kind of blended in, I think, a little bit too much. You can see I've added the clear tubes on. They go all the way around the back, and then I've also dry brushed the gold onto these tanks on his back as well, so that makes those stand out a little bit more. And I've also added a little bit of gold on his antenna as well. I'll just show you that I added a few more parts underneath him as well, just for a bit more detailing, so you can see them all just in there. So all these little bits, they all add up, make him look a little bit more realistic overall. Right, do you remember the little ray gun from earlier? I've also dry brushed that with gold because I thought that would tie in really nicely with all the other bits that I painted gold, and it's looking pretty cool. It also means that the ray gun will stand out from the rest of his arm. If I were to paint it silver, it would all just blend in with his arm, but it looks like a nice little separate gun now, which I'm really pleased with. So remember, in his other hand I was going to have him holding this bit of tubing, and that does look pretty cool just by putting that in his hand like that, because it's quite a nice old rusted little bit of pipe. And yeah, he does look good like that. But I managed to find a plastic, was it like a mini camera lens or something like that, just a cheapy toy thing that I managed to find, but it looked a little bit like a telescope, so I added some extra tube parts to this to make it even more telescope like. And you can see I found a lens and I painted it all silver inside here, and that looks really kind of effective. It almost looks like a little moon in there as well, so it ties in really nicely with him. And because I've painted the whole thing gold, it looks really good with his ray gun on the other side. And because of the way, like, it's tubular again, he just holds it really nicely in this little claw hand. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed watching me make this Moonbot. Hit subscribe to see anything that I post in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.